You ruined it, bro. I'm supposed to say in action.
Oh, my bad, my
All right,
bad,
all
my
right, hold
bad.
on, hold on. We got cut the beginning,
All right,
and then we'll start there.
all right.
Did it. Episode 3 in action.
Dun, 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 dun.
We out here, bro. We out here. Welcome to podcast episode 3, Paper Trail podcast. Everything has a paper trail, so we just kind of follow that, and that's how we get our content. Today's a special day. Grant, you want to tell them why it's special?
I don't know, Pap. Why is it special? I mean, what's different? I don't see what's going on here. It's
We
good,
got we got a new guy. You
dude.
guys see. We have a guest speaker today,
First
DIYSEC,
one.
do it yourself security. And today's special because DIYSEC represents all of you out there who are trying to get into cybersecurity but haven't really found that way to break in. He just got into the cybersecurity field, and he's here to share his journey, what he's learned, pros and cons, a lot of good nuggets. If you're not leaving today with a nugget, then you're not really listening. Tune in again, rewind, and make sure that you're make sure you turn your volume up for this one. How do we even meet DYSEC? I think it goes
S-
back to
s-
just like episode 1, Coat.
Yep,
Coat, man, that
yep. It
guy's
was code.
that
It was
guy's a legend.
code. Oh
Yeah,
my
it was code.
gosh. This is my
He's
first time meeting DIY sec. So tell us about you, man. What do I need to know?
So first off, yeah, I want to thank you guys for even, taking the interest in having me on y'all's podcast. It's definitely an honor. But yeah, so I met Coat actually through NahamSec. I think we were doing NahamSec had some bug bounty, some open bug bounty things going on,
yeah.
and just networking and getting to meet new people. And Coat definitely caught my eye. He was sharing his screen, doing all kind of crazy programming stuff. And I'm like, dude,
Oh yeah, the Emacs.
tell me what you are doing, like, what is this?
That
And then
day
we
was
just
Legendary.
talking. And so we added each other. And then a little bit later, he's like, me and Coat and I were doing some bug bounty. He's like, hey, can I add one of my friends to the bug bounty with us? And it ended up being Pap. And he chimed in, and I was like, man, this guy's super cool. And Pap, I invited him to my Discord, and he came and joined in on a couple of me streaming, uh, just doing some boxes or whatever, and whatever I was doing at the time. And we chatted, but yeah,
That's
super cool for me
awesome.
to be here.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is
and
awesome.
I remember that day too. Coat's awesome, man. He during that open book bounty platform, Coat uh he pinged me and he's like, "Yo, I'm just gonna jump in the Homsec server, join live, and I'm just gonna start like cranking at bug bounties. Are you free?" I was working at the time, so I actually wasn't free to join on and kind of help him. But I finished work. I jump into Nahamsec server. I get ready to jump on the live, and then I see an announcement on his server, and it's uh, like props to Coat for leading the bug bounty stream. And I'm like, that's my boy, man.
Bro.
Like Coat, like oh man, like he just
That's
gets
so
out there and
cool.
does it. So I like his approach to things. And then he hit me up. He's like, hey, I met this guy DIY Sec, really cool dude. He's like really smart, like good with the space, and he started his own server. And so Cole kind of invited me in, and I see the server. Not gonna lie, it's a really cool server. We'll link it. We'll link it in the description here in case
Absolutely.
anyone wants to join. Really cool server. There's a lot of good updates there. He shares like you have a lot of stuff. You share like code. You share like latest articles.
Yeah,
I read one of
Um,
them too. It was really good.
yeah,
You just invited
yeah,
me, and I
pretty
read it. It
much
was
all
pretty nice.
the latest and greatest cyber stuff or latest technologies and stuff. I try to anything informational that could help us in cyber. I try to post it. Latest tools, whatever.
Mhm.
yep,
Yeah,
yep. There's also like the like you post your YouTube videos, which we'll also link that in the description. But that's really helpful too. The latest one that you posted with this Windows escalation thing. It
the
was really
IP6,
cool.
IPv6. That was
That was really
crazy.
cool. Is that something you just found on like Try Hack Me kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, you're talking. Were you talking about the CVE? Was
Yep.
it? CVE 2019 1388. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was
you're
actually it was
able to
something.
pop CMD as a system.
Yes, that particular one was a there was a flaw in the Windows certificates, and yeah, so we were able to leverage, that flaw to be able to pop a shell as administrator while we were just a normal user without entering a password, which was pretty dope.
Yeah, that video,
What?
I think I watched it like 3 times already, and I'm not new to the security space, but I'm still like why didn't I
Mind
think of
blown.
that? Yeah. So how did you enlighten us? Yeah, how'd you do it? How'd you break into the cybersecurity space?
So
What was your journey like?
yeah, my story is a story of struggle and strife. But I mean, I'll start off by saying I'm definitely not a genius, by any means. Actually, I dropped out of high school. Uh, I've got 12 years of metal fabrication experience under my belt, and it was probably about 4 years ago, I was getting laid off. I actually knew I was going to be getting laid off in a few months at a job, and just had, I actually kind of grateful. A lot of companies don't even give you that much time to think about it, but they gave me like 3, 4 months in advance. It was like, hey, you're going to get laid off. So it gave me time to think, what do I want to do with my life? And for the past 3 years before that, I've been wanting to transition into something else. I just didn't know what that something else was. Kind of was interested in coding, and I actually took some free coding classes. We'll get to that, but uh, I ended up creating a company. I'm not going to name the company, but it was actually a it was e-commerce, and it's legally registered with the state and everything. I created a legit company where I do e-commerce, and I figured, oh, I could just sell sell products online, because the whole thought was I want to be able to make a company where I could pretty much take my laptop anywhere. I could go to the beach and I could still be functional, you know, do whatever I needed to do,
Mhm.
right? But so that was kind of the route that I went at the time. And it was about a year into me running the company, I actually get a a call from a lady. She left a voice message and she's like, "Hey, you charged me this amount." It was from another state. She was like, "Hey, did you charge my card for this amount?" And I was like, "No, ma'am. I've only charged in my state, and I definitely haven't charged you." So that was kind of my first exposure, I think my first incident with cybersecurity, where I was like, and I didn't even know at the time what the heck was going on. But to make a long story short, I checked out my website, and they had converted the HTTPS somehow to HTTP. So they had some kind of man in the middle thing going on, where I don't know how they got, I guess they probably redirected her to a different site and got her to put her card information in. But, I told her to contact her bank and tell them that it was fraud, that, it was not, because I did not charge her. But anyway, that was actually the last I ever heard of her. Kind of feel bad for that. But getting into the coding, so I really wanted to understand more about how did this happen? I figured somebody hacked me. I tried to reach out to Google, really didn't get any good help from Google sites. It was a Google site at the time. And it kind of led me down the path of, well, how, I could just create my own website, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I can. And kind of being, I get not arrogant, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not
Little
knowing,
little cocky.
ignorant,
Yeah.
ignorant, I guess. Yeah. Ignorant's a better word, I guess. Yeah. I was ignorant to think, oh, I could just make my own website. So I took some free code webinar class, and, they're, teaching us the basics of HTML, and, a little bit of Python, and stuff to, basic things to build a website. And they're saying, you want to code to best practices, because if not, the hackers will get in. And I'm like, the hackers, And they're like, and if the hackers don't get in, the bug bounty people, they could submit a bug if you're doing website development for a company, and then you could still kind of be in trouble maybe. from the company, from them having to pay a large bounty amount from your poor coding. So at that
Yep.
point, immediately I was turned off. I was like, wow, well, I want to learn how to do the hacking, the bug bounty. So how do I get? So I kind of just dropped out of that class and just went head first into cybersecurity hacking and stuff. I actually stumbled across a boot camp, not knowing anything about hacking, ethical hacking, or anything like that. There was my college was offering was actually, yeah, a pretty renowned college in my state was offering a boot camp uh, at a pretty high price, I might add too. But with me being ignorant in cybersecurity, I was like, oh, this is perfect. They're saying they're going to teach me everything, the basics of cybersecurity. I get a little certification at the end. I'm thinking, and they're saying that they're going to help me get a job after. I'm like, man, this is exactly what I need, like.
Yeah,
And
these
so yeah, I
Go for it.
fell into the boot camp. It was a
yep,
6 month
these
boot camp,
traps.
and yeah, man. So that
Yeah, these
I completed it, but yeah, we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, actually, I want to. Well, there are 2 points that, well, there are two, I guess, questions that I want to ask. One point I want to make really quickly, back with the, the development thing, and you being told that, you can be working for an organization and one of the bug bounty guys kind of find this, and you can be in a lot of trouble. Funny, funny enough, from a developer perspective, I think it is relatively impossible to find all types of like potential bugs in your code. So I think it's actually useful to utilize the bug bounty community. Just last week, actually, the company I work for deployed a new service, and I won't say what the service did, but we'll say it did X, Y, Z for the sake of this example, right? So the way it worked is that you just sign up for an account, and then you can access the service, and then employees who, like myself, we also have like an employee section, which is pretty much on like an admin panel, almost kind of thing. Um, and so out of curiosity, part of my job is to just do they call it like stress testing. And so they basically just kind of ping me and a few guys and just like have at it, do what you
Oh,
can.
dang.
And so and so
That's
one of the
awesome.
things that one of the things that I did with stress testing is, you know what, I have an employee account, right, with the admin panel. Why don't I just go to the customer account and just sign it with my employee email? It's the same email. And so what happened is, once I signed up with my customer email, I was able to log in with on the customer portal with my admin account, and in that portal, I was able to basically see anyone's information. So it was like a
Oh,
bug where
geez.
I would log in as a customer using my admin email,
They
and it was a shared email, and then it would just give me access to all of the other other people's
Developers
like
didn't think about the
right.
employees actually signing in as a customer, huh?
Exactly. You need your bug bunny guys to think of something like that. Like there's not much you can do as a developer. The best thing you can do is lean on your security guys, and then as a security guy, you need your developers, or else you wouldn't really have a job. So you kind of need to work together. But I wanted to
Absolutely.
ask you about this bug bounty, this boot camp thing. I am for lack, well, I guess this would be the best word. I detest a lot of the boot camps. Right? Detest, if you don't know, it means to dislike strongly. And I say that because they advertise, 1 month, 4 weeks in my boot camp and $6,000, and you'll be on the same level as a security subject matter expert that has 10 years in the field. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen in
Bro.
1 month.
It's not
you
it's
know?
not going to happen.
And
There's no shot.
and I think you just threw away your $6,000. So I'm curious to hear your experience.
Yeah.
I actually have not taken any boot camps because of that very reason. But I'm curious to hear your experience on how that was.
So I actually have 3 points of
Uh-oh.
pros and cons. I'll go through the cons first, and then I'll give you my pros, and you guys can like disseminate and break them down,
Jumping right
after.
in. Let's do it.
So my con, the first one, most of the time, like you say, it's too much money. In my case, it was $13,000 that I paid for this boot camp, which is way too much money. The second point, pretty much everything you will learn or can be learned on your own accord or free on the internet, right? And I learned that pretty much, a couple weeks going into the boot camp. I'm like, wow, they're getting me to look up a lot of stuff on the internet. We're using a lot of different resources from on the internet. So my third point is, it's you can complete whatever boot camp you want, but it's not going to be recognized by companies. So if you don't have some kind of base experience or some kind of industry recognized cert, you're likely not going to land an interview just because you went to a boot camp. I tried using that I went to a boot camp as my experience. I even put on my resume that, I created a business that's geared towards cyber, and that doesn't seem to help. So for the pros, real quick, you know, the pros with boot camps is networking. You'll have the opportunity to work and meet with like-minded individuals that are interested in cyber like you. The instructors, in my mind, it was pretty cool to firsthand be able to talk with instructors that have firsthand experience in the field. Also the opportunity to make a friendship with them for future references. Like my instructor actually works at AWS cloud, or yeah,
Mhm.
AWS, and he helped me submit a referral. He submitted me a referral for a job at AWS, and he didn't have to do that. But I showed him that I was serious, I was dedicated to the field, and he did that for me. So it's not a guarantee at all that your instructor or whoever's gonna do that for you. But in my case, I got lucky and he did. I didn't land the job, but he did it for me. So I appreciate that. Lastly, some people may need to have that leverage or may think that they need that leverage of the money over their head, you know, to give them the drive to want to do it. And
Mhm.
it was a little bit of that for me, to be honest, because I've always kind of just, oh, I got the apps of learning how to code or looking up a little bit, but actually having that structure of, okay, you paid this money, you have to do the class, you have to do good. Literally, your wallet is depending on it now. I mean, it's kind of a pro and a con, I guess, but yeah, that's all I got. I mean, I agree with you though, Pap. If I could have done it differently, I think it's a mindset thing.
Mhm.
If you want to get into with cybersecurity, you really should just go in with the mindset of I'm going to forever be learning stuff. I'm going to forever have to be looking up stuff. And
Yep.
if you don't really have that, or you don't like that mindset of I'm not going to know it. I'm not just going to take a class and know everything. There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think
Field is always
and I
evolving.
right. And I love how you put the perspective of it's good for networking, things like that, right? So if you are keeping up with your network, that's huge. To get into cybersecurity, in fact, I would argue that networking is crucial. It is what you need to
Absolutely.
get into the field. Um, but I think the issue with boot camps is that is just that the idea that it's cybersecurity boot camps, but cybersecurity in itself is a vast domain. So I saw this boot camp and it's like learn cybersecurity, and so I go through the syllabus, and it's like identify traffic on a CM tool and understand if you've been breached or not. Great. That probably works if you wanted to go into SOC, like a security operations center. But what if you wanted to go into GRC, right? Like compliance, risk and compliance kind of thing. You're not going to be looking at CM tools. So that boot camp is going to be a waste of money for someone who wants to go into GRC, for example. So I think the issue is just that, like they call it cybersecurity boot camp, but they
I think it's
need to
more
tailor
niche.
it.
It's
Right.
more
It needs to
niche,
be
yeah.
more niched. It needs to be more tailored to specific skill sets, and they need to advertise it for those skill sets. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts, Grant?
Um, I kind of liken it to college because when I was in college, I saw a boot camp for coding and I was going to do it. But then I realized that Harvard had a completely free Python course on YouTube for coding. So I was like, why do I need to do this? I'll just go to college. But I kind of agree with the boot camp and I kind of hearken it to college. I mean, a lot of people go to college for the paper at the end. A lot of the stuff I've learned has been through PAP server, people I've met, YouTube, stuff like that. And I'm kind of just in college to say I went to college, you know? So,
I think that's a little more respectable than a boot camp, though,
right.
as well, to be honest. I mean, they're like, oh, he went to a boot
You went to
camp.
college,
He
and then
went,
you went to
yeah, and
boot
then, oh,
camp.
this guy went to college. Okay. Like
Yeah,
college, the C word.
Yeah.
yeah. It was interesting enough. It's yeah, I agree with Grant there as well. College was great to put something on paper, but
Hmm.
I learned most of what I learned through work and networking, just hanging out with
Internships.
people, internships. I learned Python through an old friend of mine back when I lived in Atlanta. He entered a contest, a Raspberry Pi contest, and won. So he won 100 Raspberry Pis, and so he created a website called like Hack My Pi. And so he
Hack my
pinged me, and
butt.
he's like, "Dude, I have so many Raspberry Pis here. You could have a couple." So he gave me a couple, and it's like, "What do I do with this?" He's like, "I don't know, dude. Like set up port forwarding or something." I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "I don't know, man. Learn Python." So by then it was like Python 2.7. So I had learned Python 2.7 throughout that time. And then Python 3 came out, which was a lot easier than 2.7. So I had to refactor a lot of the code. But I didn't learn that in college. I learned the basics of Python, but I didn't learn a lot of the like object oriented based programming and things like that until I had gone through that 2.7 and really picked it up from there. Um, so college boot camp, college is probably better for getting a job because, with these
Keyword.
new automated systems, they're looking for keywords, and those keywords are degree, college, things like that. But best to just get out there and learn it. That's what the DIY and DIYSEC.
Exactly. Now I'm like 100% like DIY. Like I'm an advocate of, man, you can learn it for free. If that's something that you want to do, I'm not going to say I'm against college because it does help people get jobs, and personally, I just didn't want to be $30,000 plus $16,000 in debt. Otherwise, I would do it, which actually soon, I just enlisted in the military, so uh, I will be able to get college for free now. But
Yep.
Nice.
They do the GI Bill, and then that last year you should be able to get some funding for that. So, military will
so
definitely take care of that.
I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of all certs and
Nice.
college
And
with that.
I know people in college now who have graduated from my degree plan with cyber who don't have a job because they're not like you, DIY, who has done the they're not serious. You took it serious and you did the extra work that college doesn't require. So
That's
I much rather
that's
see someone like you with a job. Someone like you should get
Yeah,
hired really fast compared to someone like that, you know?
absolutely. I interviewed someone not too long ago who for a network security position, and he was very similar to DIY. He did go to college route, but he also did a lot of DIY. So the question I basically, it was a very simple question. I basically asked him what the difference between implicit and explicit deny for firewall policies. Implicit being like the default policy, and explicit is what you have to manually add to the firewall, just for simplicity's sake. And although he wasn't able to define it in like a buzzword type of way that companies look for, he straight up told me, he's like, I usually would log into the firewall and that there's like a rule that's there already, and that's like the implicit. But sometimes I need to go in and add like this new rule, and that rule like gets evaluated. Like I have to push it to the top, so firewalls evaluate rules top to bottom, and so the rule I have to like add and push to the top, that's the explicit rule I have to add, and it goes down. That tells me that not only did this guy not know what he was talking about, well, he did know, not know, but not only did this guy know what he was talking about, but he actually did the work
Yeah,
because he
he knew
was
what he
able to
was talking
walk
about.
me through it in his head. Those are the valuable people. Those are the people that like I would most likely want to hire because they've gone out and done it.
Yeah. Over
you
the
know,
textbook answer of
right?
he gives you the actual explanation.
so yeah, I'll add to that, like, you know, just I heard the saying, what is it, 10,000 hours to to be a master of a topic, something along the lines of that. Well, cybersecurity is such a vast space, like Pap said. I mean, you can get it's if you're trying to get into it, you can very easily get overwhelmed. There's
Oh
so
yeah.
much, you know, that you can learn. And I was super overwhelmed at first. Like I was telling my wife, I don't know when we got into networking and network segmentation and all this stuff, networking zeros and ones on Wireshark. I'm like, oh man, I don't think I'm smart enough for this. I don't think that I'm going to be able to do it. And she just, shout out to my wife, she's, boosting my confidence. You're smart enough. You can do it. Just you're going to have to put in the extra time to learn how to do this stuff. And I'm like, I mean,
Well,
that's exactly right. Like if you don't understand something, you're going to have to put in the extra hours to got a
Don't
little
worry,
baby walking around.
I have two of my own who
photobomb.
Uh,
walk around in
yeah.
their diapers. So
So for me, it started off small. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a junior penetration tester on Try Hack Me. I just went straight to penetration testing, and and it's funny because there's a little box on the side that's like, how many hours do you plan to put into this a day? And it was like I put like 2 hours or something like that. And it was like, it's going to take you a year and a half to get this done. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. So I bumped it up to like 6 hours. So there was at a time where I was doing like 6 hours every single day when I got all, I worked from, 5 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. You saw my baby. I got 4 kids, and then it's a lot of times it's like 8, 9 o'clock at night until I'm actually able to hone in on the computer. And that would be my time to just study,
Hammer it out.
and not only study, but see, I really wanted to get into the bug bounty, as I previously mentioned, not knowing anything about bug bounty or anything. I just, I made an account and I started poking around and stuff and things that I would learn on Try Hack Me after I did a box. I would go try it on a real target. Really hardly ever works, but try it anyway, you know. But yeah, so I ended up upping my time and then to 6 hours, and that created it. It was like, okay, you're gonna get it done in 3, 4 months. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get this done. And but that was like kind of the first step. And since then, it's been engraved in my head, like you know, 10,000 hours. Well, if I spend 4 hours a day, I did the math. It's like all year, every single day. It's just a little over 1,100 hours. So it's still going to take me 10 years to become a professional, and I'm only 2.5 years in. So, I mean, yeah, got a long way to go. Like I say, I'm definitely not the cyber whiz, but
The
I'm always
sideways.
looking up stuff.
oh, absolutely. I used, before I got into the security space, I used to work, front desk at a hotel, and very similar to you, putting in hours, and there were downtime at the hotel. People wouldn't go to the front desk, and I had my training content up. Back then, it was a free platform called Cybersecurity.it. It's paid now, but before it was free. I would have that up, and I'm just, one earbud in one ear, just kind of hand over my head so they don't see me, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just cranking these videos. Someone comes up,
Mm-hmm.
pop the air thing out, and how can I help you, kind of thing.
Hi,
So,
I'm Pat.
Dude,
How can I help you
yeah,
today?
that
yeah,
is
you have to get
crazy.
flexible with the learning.
Dude,
Right.
I was at HEB and I had, I still have long hair, but I wear a beanie and I'd have a headphone in and I'm listening to like what is it? Darknet Diaries, listening to how people hacked into stuff. And that's how I got into bug bounty,
Dude, I love
bro.
Dark Knight Diaries. Yeah, I did the same thing at work. I'll be welding or a podcast in the ear, or
Yup.
I'll be listening to critical thinking, listening to how they're, the latest hacks and techniques that they're using. I'm like, man, and I'm just thinking in my head the whole time while I'm welding or doing some
Yup.
work. I'm like, how am I thinking about a target on bug bounty the whole time at work? So it's just, if you're passionate about it, you're always going to find any time,
Yeah,
or you should find any time that you can to absorb that extra amount.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
my favorite is, and I don't know if you guys have gone through this, but I have way too many times in my, while especially while I was like in the thick of my bug bounty stuff, I would just be thinking about like, okay, here's a login endpoint. What more can I do like that I haven't done? And there were times it's like 2 in the morning. I'm like, that's it,
There
jump
it
out of
is.
bed. And my
There
wife's like,
it
what are you
is.
doing? Like, get back in bed. And I would just like run to my computer, like jot down on my notes, try this, try this, try this, and then run back to bed. And then just like could not sleep because I was so happy to try these things out. And That's how it is. Like you spend most of your time just thinking like, what else could I do? What else could I look at? What else could I try? And then you just start like you go to sleep one day, you're just like, that's
And
it.
it
I could try
clicks.
this. And you just run and you start jotting that down.
So I will add, something for people that are interested in getting into bug bounty. That's a mindset thing too. I had the wrong mindset at first. I really needed money, was hurting for money, and I was like, I just really wanted it to work. I'm studying extra, trying to put it, reading hundreds of reports and write-ups of people bug bounty, trying my own things. And I've submitted reports and get so excited. Oh yeah, I found something. You get so excited. And then it's a duplicate
Yeah.
or information. And you're like,
Out of
oh,
scope.
I'm celebrating to my wife. Yeah, that's probably $3,000 right there. Right? Like, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Just don't do it to yourself. Just
Oh yeah.
you should do it. I have a different mindset now. It's like, be
My
more chill
first
about it.
my first accepted report was a chain. It was CSRF with cross-site scripting. So happy. And then a couple of days later got accepted. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I tell my wife, like, we're getting ready to get paid. And
Get
then I
paid.
get they asked me to share my PayPal. I share it, and then they send me money. I'm like, let's go. So I open PayPal. It's like $50. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, what is like this isn't enough to sustain myself. And then I learned like the hard way of like, if you really want to get into bug bounty, it's not somewhere to go to make a living. It's just make it
Just
a
a little fun on
hobby.
the side.
And if
Yeah.
you happen to get paid three,
Cool.
4,000, great. Take that.
Right.
This ain't no doggy G or no homsec out here, dude. We're
No,
just trying to chill, you
no.
know?
No,
Right, right.
right. Critical thinking, full-time bug bountier over there, making a full-time living. And I'm seeing all these Twitter posts. Hey, I just made 3,000, just made 10,000. I'm like, yeah, I could do this.
I could
I
do
can do,
this.
I can.
A lot of the time I have been following a lot of these guys, and I'm just wondering, especially starting out, like how is it that these guys are constantly finding bugs, and what are the platforms they're looking at? And I learned two things. One is some of these guys are reporting bugs that are actually not in public bug bounty platforms. They're just
Private.
going to a random website or private program, said, and this program doesn't have a lot of traffic, like
Yeah.
bounty traffic. So they're able to find the most simple bugs that we wouldn't be able to find. Or if it's not a private program, it's a program that, or it's like not a program at all. They just go to a website, find something, and submit. Email the admin email on the website, hoping that they get paid something. The other thing I found is that a lot of these guys work in teams, groups of
Hmm.
like 4 or 5, and so it's 5 against 1. If you're looking on one website, they have a higher chance of finding things. So the things that they don't tell you is, team up, go for those private programs that no one really touches, and your chance of getting that bug is probably a lot higher.
Yeah. I found one bug, but it was out of scope. And then another bug I found was just searching on a random website. It wasn't even on Bug Bounty or anything. And I was like, uh-oh, what do I do?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
have you ever done the CVE search? So, um, what I do at times, and it's worked a few times, a new CVE comes out, and it's like, uh, I don't know, it'll say something like, uh, something that will say like example.php, the example.php extension has a vulnerability where you can do LFI by specifying a file path after the, in the URL, for example. And then I just go on Google and just like, in URL, wildcard example.php. And any website that pops up, I'm like, okay, let's see if that's vulnerable. And if it
Yeah.
is, boom,
Boom.
just found the CVE of a website that hasn't updated and submit. So there, there are people who kind of do it that way. It was early on. It was like me trying to like cheat my way into the money, like getting it before other people. But chances are the programs are like, the people that I did submit to are like, if you want to submit a bug, you need to go through the platform, not email us directly. And then when I did go through the platform, they're like duplicate. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not the only one doing that.
I'm not the only one doing that.
That's another thing, real quick, going backwards a little bit for the new guys that might not understand just getting into cybersecurity or trying to understand the lingo. You just threw a lot of terms out there, LFI, what local file inclusion, and you had a bunch of other ones, but that's something, when watching the critical thinking podcast, I mean, these guys, they're using words, I literally would have to pause the video, go look up what in the world are these guys talking about. I would go take notes on what these guys are talking about,
Yep.
and then play the video, and then they would say something else. I had to, so I'd keep on doing this until I would understand what they're talking about. And that's a whole nother point of
Yeah. That going down that rabbit
cyber.
hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chase
Yeah.
those rabbit holes if you're really trying to get into it.
That was me. Like
Yeah.
I had no idea about anything about Linux. So I just like pause the video, go to another video, Linux, how did it start? And then there's the entire history of Linux, and here's how it's evolved over the years. And then you like go into those rabbit holes. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's actually how I started too. I started very similar. I started with like a video on pen testing. And they're like, first we're going to terminal and then we have to fire up Metasploit and then we want to use it was like use TCP handler and I'm like, what is happening? I didn't know what TCP was, I didn't know what handler was, I didn't know what Metasploit was, I didn't even know what terminal was. So I had to like back up terminal. Terminal's a Linux thing. What is Linux? And I had to go back
What
and
is
like
Linux?
Linux is an operating system. What does that mean? And then like I had to go
What
back
is a
and like
kernel?
I ended up starting out with like the basics of Windows. Like it was a very long journey. Let's just say that.
And that's what I mean. It'll get overwhelming.
Yep. Yep.
Dude, I know
Exactly.
people who are in the industry for so long, and it's like I tell them like CompTIA A plus, although it's the basics, even for like me, that was hard. A plus was hard. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. Net plus, I'm like, this is so intimidating. I don't even know if I could do this. And I've been studying it for a while. So it's like networking, I have to study every day because that's just so difficult for me. I don't know why, but the flow of data is so I don't know about you, DIYSec. Did you skip over the networking stuff and jump right into the
No,
bug
I've
bounty like
actually,
me?
well, I mean, to be honest, in the boot camp, yeah, I
Hmm.
was glad to, like, they went over networking,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, thank God, like, thank God this is over. Like, I was trying the subnetting, the
Yep.
breaking out the subnet calculator, or actually they made us do it by hand.
Oh
And
God.
yeah, so doing it by hand, that's really where I was like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do this.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
why am I doing it? Like, what are we doing? Like, but it's and I'm still not the greatest at subnetting, to be honest. Like, I mean, I do understand it. I know how to plug it into the calculator because a lot of people I've talked to that are in the industry, they're like, nobody does it by hand, dude. Just do it by the calculator. Like, it's like, but I want to understand, I
I
really
want
want
to
to
know
truly
it. Yeah.
understand this. Like, I want to understand what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, that networking, the zeros and ones actually being
Hmm.
able to translate into packets and messages and all this other
Bits
stuff.
and bytes and
Oh, right. I mean,
Uh,
that intimidated the crap out of me. I was
as
like,
someone,
geez.
as
But it
someone
interests me
who's,
too.
as someone who's been in cybersecurity for a while, I'll tell you my secret because there is no way I'm actually going to whip out a subnet calculator when I'm looking at network traffic, especially now, right? Like
no.
when I'm in firewall, it doesn't matter what firewall I use. Let's say Palo Alto, since I think I've used that more than other firewalls. I will jump into the traffic, like the monitor traffic page, and in the search bar, I'll just whack 24 everything. Whack 24, basically insider notation. That's 256 address spaces. An IP address, ranging from that. Um, Usually it's like zero or what? Usually it's one, but then going all the way up to 255, meaning you cover every address space in that IP range. So I just whack 24 everything. If they're like, oh, we have these five IPs ranging from, XXX, and then it's like two up to XXX. Nope, I'm doing XX1 whack 24. That covers all IP addresses.
Dog.
I'm not like that. That's all I do. Anything outside of whack 24, I really don't really care about.
I don't care.
Uh, so that's just a little hack there, and I most of the time when you do get an address space, like unless you're getting, you know, uh, a a company that is deliberately segregating their subnets by like the same IP addresses but just different ranges. So like 1 through 16 is one subnet, and then 17 through 32 is one subnet. You don't really need to go and bust out the subnet
And,
calculator and
and I
everything.
will say, I mean, I think with things evolving in modern day, if I'm not mistaken, with AWS, like you can plug in like how many computers are actually going to be used, and then I think it automatically
Does it?
figures
Yeah.
out the subnet for you. But if you were manually setting up computers, oh, I got 100 or I got 1,000 computers in this organization, and I guess that would you would really need to know your
Oh
subnet,
yeah.
to know.
Dude, my networking teacher would write like a bunch of subnets on the whiteboard or whatever. And he'd go, are these computers in the same subnet? And I like that used to make my heart drop, dog. It's like, oh my God, like I don't know. And I have to go and do all the
Oh
calculations.
no.
I have to draw the big chart.
Yeah, that doesn't. And I've never had someone come to me and say, and I mean, maybe it does happen, but it just has to happen to me. Someone come to me and say, "Okay, we got a WAC 16. Can you identify the IPs in a subnet?" Most of the time, I'm looking at a CM tool or I'm looking at firewall traffic when I'm
Yeah.
looking at subnets. When it comes to actually subnetting things in AWS, like you mentioned, DIY, AWS does a lot of that heavy load for you. In fact, all you have to do is identify the availability zones. So there's like 3 different zones they usually offer by default, and they kind of just they ask you like how many machines do you want. If you're like I want 1 machine, then they just throw a WAC 32 there. So it's like
Right.
there's it
Like,
does it
okay,
for
I
you.
don't have to think about it too much
You don't need
now.
to think about it. Right, right. It's good to learn. I always I'm a big advocate for learning, but if you were to ask me to do the manual calculations now, I'm
A little
probably gonna
rusty, huh?
scratch my head.
It's on
Yeah,
it's on Net Plus, just
really
FYI
rusty.
for those who think they could skip it. It's on Net Plus. If you want Net Plus, then you got to do it.
So yeah, that's
So
definitely one of my least favorite. Networking, it's important, definitely important.
hmm
Uh, you say TCP, transmission control protocol, knowing that
TCP/IP.
UDP, what is it? Usergram,
User datagram
what is
protocol.
yeah, use it.
protocol,
Yep,
right? That's what it is.
yep,
Ridiculous stuff, man.
yeah. When
And
fortunately they're
we're on UDP right now, so knowing what's
important. Yep, that's what I was
yep,
saying.
no,
Unfortunately, they're important to know,
They are. Oh my
especially for
gosh.
filtering a lot of that stuff down or trying to when developers are deploying their own application or even basic things like webhooks, for example, which I've seen more recently. I've seen a lot more of. Um, Depending on the webhook is depending on the traffic, right? Like if you're trying to send media, um, somewhere with the webhook, you probably want to use UDP. But if you're just trying to like send a file and you want to make sure that file gets downloaded, you probably want to complete that handshake with the TCP protocol. So a lot to learn there as well.
Hopefully, we didn't just turn a bunch of people off to this.
Yeah.
they're like, whoa,
All right, I'm done.
Yeah, and don't get me started on the TCP/IP stack and the OSI model.
so many
Jesus.
protocols.
So for me, kind of what was my introduction or my boot camp, I guess you could say, was I followed the structure of this guy on YouTube named Josh Madakor, and he has a video on getting started into cyber, and he had like levels to it. So like level 1, listen to podcasts. Level 2, try hack me. Level 3, certifications. And he would kind of go and break those down. And I watched that video so many times, and I just followed all those protocols, starting with the podcasts, which I listened to, then going on to like try hack me, hack the box, which is how I met Coat and Pap. So that went in with the networking. But that's what landed me my first internship. I hadn't even started college yet, or I was finishing up my associates going into my bachelor's, and I wanted to be ready for my bachelor's. And now that I'm in it, I'm like, I've learned all of this. Literally, one of my finals was do something and hack the box or try hack me. I'm like, okay, here's everything I've done like 3 years ago. So I could see where, the boot camp and then your pros and cons can kind of fit into the going or not going.
Don't
Yep.
do it.
Don't do
Don't do the
it.
boot. Don't do the boot camp.
Don't do this.
Go. So DIY. So you did these boot camps. You kind of threw money away in a sense. You decide to DIY literally. You decide to learn yourself, create these websites. Although it got hacked, it helped you to dive into the security space. Then what happened? How do you go from that? From like I just got hacked. How does that happen? Like what's going on? How do you go from that to oh now I'm going to be working in the military as a cybersecurity guy?
So that's part of the pain and strife, man. I'm just trying to put my experience all on paper, right, for the resume. I had kind of put, my experience. Oh, well, I went to cybersecurity boot camp. Uh, I created a company which was, as I mentioned, primarily online retail, but I did set up I set up a SEAM, security incident event management
Yep.
tool. I think
Splunk,
that's what it is.
Splunk, I'm guessing.
I actually, it was open source, free. It was Waza.
Oh,
Oh, nice. I have
So
used Waza, actually.
yeah,
Yes.
so I'd set up Waza, and uh I was monitoring my traffic and trying to get good, but all these things just to say, uh, I was trying to find any kind of way to leverage at that point. I knew I spent the money, I'm out of pocket. What can I do to make myself in a better position where a company, because I knew I was out of money. I know the 13,000 is pretty much, that's a payment, you know. So I don't have the 300 now anymore to buy a little CompTIA certification, or
mhm.
actually it's probably more like 800 or something like
Oh,
that. But
it's expensive.
but so I'm like, second off, if I'm gonna pay the money for a certification, I would most rather it be practical, right? So I did settle for, I bought into the PNPT by TCM Security, which is the practical network penetration tester, which I'm still going through. Of course, it's like 5 different modules. And, you know, I'll say I could have rushed through it and probably slammed the test already, but I've really been taking my time because this is like the second or really third time drilling the fundamentals first and then going through the more advanced topics, exploitations and stuff like that. So just really take your time on your journey to drill it. Make sure you understand if you really want to understand it, right? Don't just try to be one of those guys that's like, I know it.
I
And
know.
then they're like, okay, prove it. And then you're like, well,
I can't.
I don't want to be like that. I want to really know it. I want to understand it. I have a passion for it. But yeah, to more directly answer your question, I mean, that's pretty much the same path. I went through Try Hack Me first. I believe I'm like top 6% of hackers right now on Try Hack Me.
Nice.
I've done a ton of Try Hack Me. I just recently went to Hack the Box, because when I went to Hack the Box at first, it was like basically they take the training wheels off.
Oh yeah.
They're like they're like, it's not as much guidance. And
Hmm.
I do like that about Hack the Box because it's kind of like a level up. But yeah, so I am doing a lot more Hack the Box now, but if you're just getting started, I definitely highly recommend try Hack Me. And
Hmm.
then of course just internet, use all the materials you possibly can to find that niche. It's such an open category, as you said, like you may go into compliance, or you might want to do blue team, so you want to be a SOC analyst. Don't try to learn everything, because that's where you're going to get overwhelmed. Me, I know personally I'm more interested on the red team side of things, and bug bounty and penetration testing. So eventually I do aspire to create my own penetration testing company. And yeah, so just that's pretty much where I'm at, man.
Nice.
Yes.
Constantly
Yeah.
doing boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great. And I, although I haven't used TryHackMe myself, I actually started before TryHackMe was a thing. It was back, I think Hack the Box was brand new. You had to like hack your way in, which wasn't really hacking. You just looked at the HTML. If you inspect element, so you look at the HTML available code and the Hack the Box page, there was like an invite code, and then you would basically just forge that invite code. Then you can basically invite yourself into the
Right, that's how it
platform.
was. Yep.
Yeah, back in the day when I
I,
first started
I
Hack the
I
Box.
think it was, well, when I signed up, that's how it was.
Yep,
I don't know
yep.
if it still is, but
It's not anymore.
okay.
Mhm.
I spent like a week with my friend, just like, dude, we got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. And finally, it was like a week after we got in, and they were like, when I had jumped in, the first challenge I did was a crypto challenge, and it was basically just like a rot 13. You just had to reverse. It was super easy, but getting in once we got in is probably about like 100, 200 people like in Hack the Box at the time. And so it was really easy to kind of just jump to the top. But Yeah, it was nice. I think one thing that Hack the Box really stepped up on, I have seen Try Hack Me as well, is not just, and I think you mentioned it, right? So not just showing that hacking side, but also the blue team, also a lot of
Hmm.
the compliance. I went to Hack the Box Academy, and there's a lot
Sherlock's
more
up
now.
there.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot more. There's like investigation, right? Forensic
Hmm.
analysis, things like that and cryptography, right? That's also a thing that you can do. And I think it opens those options, which I think can be really attractive to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Why I know you're in red team, but I very much know, me being having experience in both red team and blue team. I also find it fun to just like, someone ping me, hey, I think we're getting hacked, and I throw on my blue hat and like, this guy's nothing. Like, like I can easily stop this guy. Boom, block an IP address. He tries to use another one. All right, you want to try to, I don't know, uh, one of the common things that script kiddies like to do, right? Like password, like credential stuffing attacks, right? So like just randomly brute forcing these passwords against a login endpoint. All right, I'm going to throw a captcha in front of that endpoint. What are you going to do now?
What we gonna do now?
Like,
What are
yeah,
you gonna do
I
now?
don't know. I get a thrill with that blue team. Like, okay, let's see how smart you really are. Boom, throw this defense. How are you going to bypass that? And a lot of them give up. And it's like, you weren't as good as I thought. But in reality, yes, these guys are smart. Even if you're a script kiddie, I do think you're smart. I just think that um, red team, blue team, forensic analysis, whatever you go into, a lot of it does get exciting.
Hmm.
It
And I
does.
think there's not enough representation for these other sides of cybersecurity that people absolutely love.
I did a CTF for the Department of Defense recently, a few months ago, and that was actually I didn't get the web. I was so mad at myself. I didn't get the web flag, but I got the forensics flag. I'm like, I'm not even blue team. How did I do this? Like what? But just kept digging in, and but I found it interesting and exciting. So yeah, definitely
That thrill
I
of when
agree
you
with
find
that.
that flag is like it's addicting. It's addicting.
It was
I started
crazy
off
too. I mean, they gave me a Rick roll like MP3 or MP4. It was a Rick roll, and then there was like a SQL database inside of it. I had to go digging inside of an SQL database inside of a song
that
file. I was
song.
like, what? Didn't even know this was
Yeah.
possible. Like,
back, back when Hack the Box was like the old format, they didn't have multiple VPN servers. And so these virtual machines it was almost as if it was like one virtual machine. So like everyone kind of jumps into one box. So so a lot of the time I would jump into the box and just type in history in the Linux
Mhm.
terminal, and it'll just give me the history
Everything.
that was entered. And a lot of the people would just cat the file, and then or they will have their own bash script like run, and I would just copy and paste that, grab the flag. So but that was like a thrill. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm grabbing this flag, like I'm following, who knows? I'm moving up the leaderboard. Uh, but yeah, I mean, a lot of it just stumbling upon things, having fun, and then you start getting into the real stuff as you start to learn.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel like we love to veer off. I do want to hear, I do want to hear how you actually landed this cybersecurity role. Um, was the boot camp enough? What was it that got you into this role?
so honestly, ASVAB score and yeah, I mean that as far as the role in the military, like um that's kind of what after trying for 2 years of trying to get a traditional civilian job, failing and failing, it gets depressing, but I kept my head strong. It's definitely over 1,000 applications I've put in by now, but um didn't really I landed two in-person interviews and they actually one of the people told me, you actually performed better than some of you performed on the questions better than some people that we've interviewed that have college and have all these industry certs. But because you haven't actually had a job in cybersecurity, we're going to have to, look elsewhere, pretty much what they told me. So, um, at that point, I just felt like one, I, I'm I've been to a point in my life where it's like I'm getting older and I have a buddy that was in the military and he's actually It's called a 17C, which is a cyber operations specialist. And he he tells me little bits, he can't tell me all about what he does, but he's a hacker for the military, and it's really cool. Some of the little bits that he can tell me is really cool. And I was like, I would love to do that. Like, I would love to be a hacker for the military. And so I went to try to apply and get it, but it turns out they're not just going to let you join as a hacker in the military. You got to have, like, there's, I think, 5 different levels of security clearances. You got to have, I think, at least a level 4 security clearance to even be considered. And then you got to have references and all this other stuff. So the best they could offer me was to be a information technology specialist. I would have to be that for 2 or 3 years, and then I could basically apply to be a hacker for the military. So I'm, while I am breaking into IT and cyber, a cyber aspect of IT, I guess. Um, that's pretty much it. You got to have a high enough ASVAB score, uh, which I think it was like a 110 ST, 110 GT or something like that. And yeah, you should be good as long as you don't have any felonies or you don't do drugs, and you know, just the typical thing, just kind of clean cut.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. The and for those who don't know, 17C is yeah, it's specifically the Army. So it's a cybersecurity specialist in the Army, and you need what they call a poly. So there are different levels of clearance. There's like secret, there's top secret, but even with that, there's like secret compartmented information. And the secret compartmented information based clearance, usually you need like a poly, which is like a lie detector test.
Hmm.
Um, and once you pass that, they do like a full background check. They check like neighbors. They check references. They check child. I had someone call my childhood friend from like middle school
oh,
and
dude, there were
just like,
so
did you
many.
go to middle school with this guy? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like I haven't talked to them in years. But they dig deep.
Yeah, I had
Um,
to have three people for good character reference, people that would just say that I was a good person,
yep,
like, and
Yeah.
could vouch
yep,
for me.
people.
That
Yep. I had yeah, I had one of the background investigation agents. Um, they called me and basically said, can you give a reference for one of your neighbors? So I did. One of the neighbors I was really close with. We would play basketball together a lot. And they straight up just went to his house, knocked on his door, and said, do you know Pap? And he's like, yeah, I do. Like, I thought you were gonna call, not show up. but yeah, they go through this extensive check, and once you pass that, then it's like, okay, you have your clearance, but you may or may not still get this job. So it's like that's just to like qualify you for the position, not to guarantee you the position. So it's
right.
really hard to get into that, especially even the information security analyst that you're in now, DIY, that's also a tough job to get into. So
Yeah.
to be
They
recognized,
also have to do the polygraph just for that as well.
yep, to be
Dang,
recognized for that position
incredible. Applaud.
without any schooling, it just shows the amount of hard work that you put in, right? When I
Dedication.
worked, yeah, yeah, when I did like work for the government, there was a saying, at least that was among the employees that I worked with, and it was, we don't hire stupid people. And as bad as that sounds, the idea was, yeah, we don't really care if you have the most prestigious college degree, but you really know what you're talking about. Um, and that's what they base it off of.
Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
all my life, I mean, as a
Speechless.
welder, they pretty much it's kind of like the going joke. You guys probably never heard of it, but in fabrication shops, if there's any welders or fabrication, they'll know what I'm talking about. Is, oh, you're just a stupid welder. Just pull the trigger, push the button, and weld. So it's kind of like a thing. It's like that I had to overcome too. It's like I'm not just a stupid welder.
Yeah,
I can do more. And yeah, that's for everybody listening. You can do more. You can do whatever you set out that you want to do. Just you got to put in the work. Nothing comes easy. That's worth it.
absolutely. gonna get told no a lot. You're gonna get told, maybe not now or you're not ready, and you overcame that, man. It's incredible. Inspiring story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm excited to see where it takes you to, and I'm excited to see um what people can learn from this experience, right? So, no college degree, right? Just high school diploma.
Yep, drop out.
Any certifications?
No certifications.
No
No certs.
certifications whatsoever.
Except for my boot camp certification, but
Wasted.
who knows about that? Who even knows?
$13, 13,000. He literally just took a stack, 13,000, and just flushed it down the toilet.
Now, in their defense, small defense, they actually do now offer Security Plus CompTIA with that 13,000 intuition that you have to pay for the. So
Okay.
it wasn't included on mine. So right after my class, I'm like, hey,
Wow.
what's going on? Where's my Security Plus voucher? Oh, we're sorry, you're not eligible for that. You got to be kidding me. Like
What?
I had no idea that is the main, just the basic, basic level search that most of these companies are going to look for. If you guys don't know that are in the, watching Security Plus, they're going to be looking for like maybe the CC, the Certified in Security, just the basic ones. If you don't have these basic certs, and you got to realize a lot of these people, you got thousands and thousands of people that have these certs and they have college. So they're looking at me like this guy, he doesn't
This
know
guy.
anything.
Yeah.
He does,
Yeah,
but
you have a solid point. That's what, even at the company I work for now, right? They when they post their job requisitions, if it's like entry level, if you're going to be just like a cyber guy, it's like, Security Plus is a like a bonus kind of
Mhm.
thing. If you have Security Plus, your chances increase. If some people want to get into cloud security now, right? So one of the things that they throw up there is the AWS certified practitioner. Very easy. Like that is the most basic AWS cert you can get,
right.
and it increases your chances
Yep.
because it tells the company that okay, you at least know the lingo, which is
Mhm.
usually the first step in a lot of these cybersecurity jobs.
Right. Yeah, don't sleep on the certs. Like I definitely did, but hopefully going to be really trying to take advantage of it soon. The AWS certified or what did you call it? Certified
Uh,
professional
the
practitioner.
practitioner. Yep.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, it's only $100. If you have a Prime membership, I think it
Mhm.
brings it down to $50. So these are really cheap certs. And actually, in the course, in the boot camp, we covered a lot of this.
Mhm.
They actually had extra classes, had AWS labs for us to set up environments and do these testing. It was directly aimed towards the practitioner. But I was like, I'm not paying them. I've already paid enough money.
Yeah.
I'm not paying more money. I refuse to pay more money for you guys to search unless it's like put me in a lab. Like I just don't want to press A, B, or C or D. But hey, like I said, don't have my mentality. I think it would probably benefit you if you looked at some of these basic certs and
Certifications.
just went for these certifications because that's probably a big reason what's holding me back. I tried to put some of my bug bounty, you know, some of the reports that I've submitted, I put that on my resume. That could help you. I was trying to find actual CVEs that I could put my name on to say, hey, look, I found CVEs, this and that. I'm yet to do that yet, but still working on it.
Hmm.
But things like that, what can I do for free that is going to enhance my ability, increase my chances of landing that job? And so far, for a traditional company, HR is not having it.
Nope.
They're just it's not going to work for you guys.
Yeah, you got to get past the AI and then they got to get past the HR, and they're looking
Yep.
for those stupid words
Yep.
that
Oh, and by the way, the I don't know if you guys know the old ATS tricks. I've actually tried it once where you just literally take the job description,
Mhm.
you pay, you paste it like on your resume, and then you change the font to white, and then you have your resume there, and then you have the job description under in white. So
Hacking
the
the
ATS
job
system,
resume. What?
the
Hacking the
ATS system
AI.
reads it, and all the keywords are there because it's in white.
Dude, I have
Um,
never thought about that.
but
Wow.
they've updated it, so that doesn't work anymore.
Okay. I'm like, wow, why didn't I think of that? Like, that's great.
But it at least when I tried it, back in the day, it did work to get me some interviews. There are some it gets to a point where you get frustrated. You start to like think of, okay, how can I hack my way into the front of the line? How can I, I'm
Yeah.
tired of getting rejection emails. Sometimes, literally, sometimes you apply 10 seconds later. Oh, we regret to inform you, we're moving on with someone else. Like, you didn't even look at my resume, man. Like,
Like,
you know what I mean? Like, it's like you start getting frustrated. So I hope, especially with this episode, that people who are in that situation where they're getting frustrated, the ATS system is bouncing them back. Maybe they get into like second, third round interviews and then they're getting ghosted, which is the worst feeling ever. Just keep trying
Don't give up.
while you're applying. Like DIY said, just start doing things. Jump on Try Hack Me. Start learning whatever you want to learn. If it's red team, red team. If it's blue team, blue team. The point is, once you actually are put in front of a person, that's when you can shine. You just need
Hmm.
that one chance. Once you're put in front of a person, boom. Hey, I don't have the latest certification. I don't have the college degree, but I know how to do this, and I can show you how to do this if you allow me. Those are the kind of things that'll stand out to not necessarily recruiters, but the hiring managers who are more technical than the recruiters would be.
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I I even tried to avoid HR. I would look up the company and then I would do recon on the company, pretty much figure out all the employees, figure out who, try to figure out who's the main guy, right? Who's the cyber guy in this company? How can I figure out and send him an email? He'd be like, "How did you get my information? Who are you? How are you sending me an email?" Like,
Yeah.
or
So
just
actually,
most of the time they don't even message back. But yeah, that doesn't work either.
one hack that actually works for me is so I do research on the person I'll be interviewing with, but what I do is I look at the position and I type in the position in like LinkedIn, and it shows like past experiences, and someone who had the same exact position at the same company most likely were the one who left the company. So then I reach out to that person and say, hey, can you tell me about the people who I'll be interviewing with? What are their names? Do you think? How are they like? What are some questions they might ask? And they kind of just give me like the rundown. Like, this guy really love, I've had an interview where someone said, uh, this guy really loves presentation. So a Zoom call, make sure you're in a suit and tie. And just being in a suit and tie, the guy's like, I love your present. Like in the call, he's like, I love how you present yourself. And I was like,
I've actually
whoa,
done that
like
as well.
boom. Yeah.
I mean, I've had a full suit on, everything, and like
Yep.
my wife's like, "You're not even going there. You think that's necessary?" I'm like, "Yeah, first impressions."
Very important.
Absolutely.
Very important. Any closing words? Are we wrapping it up? What are we thinking? How long have we been going?
Yeah. No, we're getting ready to wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Any last words, DOI, to the greater community?
Uh, yeah, just try to stay positive. It's going to be a bumpy roller coaster if you're getting into cyber. Know that going in. There's thousands of people that, you'll hear these articles that are like, there's thousands of jobs that need to be filled, but there's also thousands of people that probably have more certifications, maybe more college experience than you, that are going to look better than you. So just be patient. Like Pat and Grant said, networking. I didn't truly believe it until I have to say, I don't know, maybe a little under a year ago. It's definitely that is the way to go. Network, try to really don't just add somebody, like really try to build a relationship with somebody and you know, you talk to them, actually try to figure out, hey, what's going on with the company, don't be weird about it, but just try to make conversations and slowly build relationships and rapport with people to better your chances, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I would say in closing comments, just adding to that, right? If you're going out there and you're networking with a lot of these people, you're going to learn a lot,
Hmm.
even if it's something at your current job. When I was in the hotels, I would constantly like run to the server room. I mean, I didn't have permission, but I would constantly run to the rooms and I would like, as I'm learning, and I'm like, okay, this is a router and this is an RJ45, which is like an Ethernet cable. but where's it connecting to? And I would just follow it, like, oh, this is connecting to a switch. Let me look at the front of the switch. Like, it's a Cisco switch, and this is the model. And I would go and like Google that model. How does that work? Like things like that. And then if I didn't understand something, I would literally just run to IT, like, hey, I ran the server room again. Explain this to me. Um,
Got a old
just
Cisco dummy
boom, you got
switch.
yourself a Cisco
Bro,
switch.
he's got
But
the actual piece.
things like that, just being curious. It
Yep.
all starts with curiosity. Same way when you're a child and you're just curious of a bunch of things, just keep that curiosity and you'll go far.
Mhm. Yeah, as I said
All right.
earlier, this is my first time meeting DIYSEC. I met him through PAP, going back to the networking, and I'm very inspired by his story. I'm also inspired by Coat. So just the networking is so important. Thank you, Pat, for introducing me to DIY. And DIY is very cool to meet, talk to you, and I hope other people can gather as much from your story as I did, because I think it's incredible and inspiring and inspires me to keep going.
Heck yeah. Definitely appreciate both of you guys for having me on. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Again, if you didn't get a nugget, rewind this and rewatch this again. Turn that volume up.
Or head to
But
McDonald's, bro.
until next time, episode 4, Paper Trail out.
We out. Take care.